Hey, Jordan. It's been
Hi.
so long, and I'm so thrilled that we're able to talk today.
Yes, I'm so excited. It's a beautiful day here in Santa Fe, New Mexico at Form and Concept Gallery. And as you can see, my backdrop right now is actually the Live Wire exhibition in which your work is featured. We're so grateful to have your work in the gallery in this particular show. It is an exhibition of political fiber art. So that was a really interesting theme to approach. And I am seeing your backdrop is gorgeous. Tell me where you are.
I am in Boston Sculptors Gallery,
Yes.
Faculty of Utterance.
The centerpiece of this exhibition, I would say, is this piece Once Was, which is directly behind you. Absolutely stunning. I know there was another exhibition I know that this appeared in. It's 3,600 poppies, right?
Yes,
It's monumental.
yeah, yeah.
Also is a good place to start in terms of talking about the psychology of obsessive art practices. So, so
Yeah.
Jody, when you reached out to me to do this little conversation we're having, you sent me this whole list of topics, and this one really leapt out at me, particularly in a moment when we're all stuck in our own little worlds, and we're in. What made you add that to the list of topics that you had suggested?
I get asked about this a lot, and particularly recently. And so if I really think, I relish the sort of lost feeling I get, to be totally immersed in a world, to escape where I am. I do think there's a pathology to it, that I'm trying to lose myself, or maybe I'm trying to find myself, or maybe I'm trying to figure something out, or avoid figuring something out. And historically, I mean, right back to Bronze Age China, it is sort of a devotional thing, that the more you embellish, the more you project yourself onto a third-party object, the more expressive and the more evidence there is of your dedication,
Kinds of
expression,
work that are
devotion.
about actions or stitches or other things. And I noticed the pieces of my sculptures that have a lot of obsessive work to their surfaces or constructions garner the most attention, and people look at them the longest.
Leads to another question I had, which is that, you know, I was curious to know your thoughts on perfectionism and that drive towards maybe seeking perfection. You know, it's something in the craft world, you know, creating something that's perfect with hours and hours and hours of handwork, you know, is something that I think a lot of contemporary craft artists think about or exhibit tendencies towards. Do you relate to that? It sounds like in some ways.
Yeah, I don't strive for it to look like it's perfect, but I am very perfectionist about the imperfection.
Yes, which is so, it sounds paradoxical, but it's not, right? Yeah, that that your work can kind of hold that contradiction, hold those like layers of both some level of specificity to the form, and then you're also, when you're going for it, you're kind of just letting that thread lead you, like you were saying earlier, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's sort of an organic interaction between me and the material.
And how has the pandemic, like this period of isolation, how has that affected that process? Because I would imagine that it becomes maybe sometimes overbearing to have processes like this where you're really deep in it and you don't have as much of that, you don't have a break, right?
I wasn't staring at the walls. I used this opportunity to investigate a lot of craft processes that I had been interested in. And if I choose that I want to totally investigate something, I need to have the space to do that. And during the pandemic, I did just that. So I learned how to do a lot of weaving techniques. And in one project in particular, I took every word of the day, that is this app that dictionary.com has every day at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get what the word of the day is, and it's usually very sort of tied to whatever current events are going on. And I took that word of the day and wove it into a band that I created on an inkle loom. And I never...
That idea that, it's not enough. You're always kind of bringing it into other realms or talking about other ideas is one thing that we think about a lot here at Form and Concept. We're talking about how historic craft in general has always been a medium for storytelling. When you're approaching a new project, like for example, when you approached Unidentified Women, which started with this extensive research project, you were combing through the historic Northampton archives. How do you decide this is the tool and technique I'm going to use to tell this story? Could you just talk a little bit about that series and how that developed into this incredible narrative about women in history, or in this case, out of history in a certain way?
Yeah. I was asked to respond to a collection. I was responding to the headwear collection that you can see in the background. In the process of researching their archives at Historic Northampton, I found these old daguerreotypes, and all the men had every piece of information about their whole life listed, and about 75% of the women had the title Unidentified Woman. So while discovering and responding to facets of clothing as identity for women, I simultaneously discovered these tintypes, and it just all came together to me what I needed to say with this project. And there's always this sort of rosy glass image of the past, the good old days, the age of homespun, and I'd like to use one of the few educational means that they had, which was embroidery. They were considered educated if they knew how to embroider. I wanted to use that as a feminist tool to sort of both obscure and bring out their identities as women.
So interesting too, in terms of obsessive art practice. Something I wonder about a lot here, you were talking about how Unidentified Women, this is about the erasure of women from history, or obscuring women in different ways, in like different periods of time, right? Or even like the Mary Jane series that you had referenced earlier. You're talking about these boxes that we put people in, right? Prescriptive kind of identity. Do you feel like obsessive art practice in a way is retracing trauma that has been experienced or that you've experienced, or is it alleviating trauma? Like, what is the dynamic there in terms of this? These are really heavy narratives sometimes, and you're approaching them in this really kind of intense way, right?
This is like a very vulnerable question for me, because I do feel like I'm trying my best to express this place that I haven't found words for yet. A mentor of mine once said that nostalgia is an act of disassociated trauma. It's huge trauma.
Now, trauma doesn't mean...
I'm creating these objects to disassociate my pain and my loss from a particular time in my life. So,
well, is it disassociation, or is it like externalizing it so that you can view it and touch it and walk around it? Like, is that another part of it, that you can make contact with it in a different way when it suddenly exists as within a physical object? Does that resonate?
Oh yeah, because then it becomes a sort of apparition.
Yeah. Effects on body and mind, and how that might be interconnected with your artistic practice.
Well,
the effect on the mind, it's better than meditation. It's a respite, and it allows my mind to go places that in a regular day there are too many distractions, and I just can't do it. So that's what it does for my mind. For my body, here's the thing: I'll do these repetitive sculptures that require like brawn and, and uncomfortable positions, stitching for hours, and things like that. And while I'm doing them, I don't feel anything. And the minute it's like 5:30, I gotta go home and think about dinner, and I get up, it's like, holy crap, I feel awful.
Yeah. What does keep you going when it becomes really physically difficult? It sounds like it's more the physical stuff that becomes difficult. The mental stuff is that flow.
I get excited. I get excited for this process of growing into something. And each day, it's farther along that line than the day before.
My official list of questions, but I am just so curious to know, how does it feel to look around, right? I mean, you are surrounded by your work right now. What is that like when you have a show like this and you're looking at series that span years of your practice? I mean, this is monumental.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't go into it thinking this way, but it's, in some ways, it feels like a retrospective.
It is a retrospective.
But let's weave together. So many times I feel like my work is disparate, because to me, it's like, how does a headwear sculpture have anything to do with the Mary Jane? I know that's false.
Yeah, there's so many connections, but yeah, exactly. When you're that close to it, right?
And then once was in the making, a totally different style project and objective, yet it's still about the loss of voice and people who are alienated. So I am thrilled I'm able to pull it together. I feel very complete.
And I'm sure that in some ways, again, because you're often at thread level when you're, working on a sculpture, it's so important to have this time of release where everything goes out into the world and it becomes this constellation of objects, and even you don't necessarily know how it's all gonna vibrate together. Like, you're still drawing new connections, I'm sure, between different things.
For instance, I'm pleased at how colorful it is. I guess I like flowers.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely a motif for you, for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I look forward to seeing you. Maybe we'll have another chat sometime. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, thanks so much. Bye.